It's a Tuesday night and Jake is lying on his apartment floor. Not dramatically. Just, he ran out of couch space because his roommate's dog claimed it. And honestly, the carpet felt fine. He's got his phone above his face, scrolling Zillow the way other people scroll Instagram. Not because he can buy anything. Just to look, he finds a house. 3 bedrooms. Small yard. 45 minutes from downtown Austin. And the price is $485,000. Jake makes $58,000 a year. He does the math, the way every renter does, at 11 p.m. with the lights off, and figures out he'd need about $97,000 just for the down payment and closing costs. That's almost 2 years of his entire salary. Before taxes. Before rent. Before food. Before literally anything else in his life. He puts his phone down and stares at the ceiling for a while. Here's the question I want to answer today, and I want to answer it honestly. Because most people online are either telling Gen Z to just stop buying avocado toast, or they're telling you the whole system is broken and there's nothing you can do. Both of those answers are wrong. And both of them are costing you real money. My name is Psycho, not a financial advisor. Just someone who looked at the actual numbers. Hit subscribe if you want more of this. Let's get into it. Let me show you exactly where things stand in 2026, because the data is genuinely wild. Baby boomers. 79.6% of them own homes. Gen X? Right around 70% millennials? Getting there. Sitting around 52%, though way later in life than their parents did. Gen Z? 26.1%. And that number is actually being generous. A separate Redfin survey found only about 27% of Gen Zers own a home right now, with 67% saying they actively struggle just to cover their housing costs every single month. 6%. 2 out of every 3 people in Jake's generation are currently losing sleep over rent, not mortgages. And here's the data point that should genuinely make your jaw drop. The median age of a first-time homebuyer in America just hit 40 years old. That's a record. The highest it's ever been since the NAR started tracking this in 1981. In 1981, the average person bought their first home at 29. In 2026, it's 40. That's not a blip. That's not a bad year. That's 11 years of homeownership and 11 years of compounding equity that an entire generation is just not getting. And if you're 24 like Jake, that math means you might be renting for another 16 years. But here's the thing, and this is the part most people skip. That statistic is an average. And you already know what averages do. They hide everything important. Let me show you what Gen Z is actually up against in 2026, because it's not one problem. It's 4 problems stacked on top of each other. Problem 1, the price. The household income you need to afford a typical American home right now is about $111,000 a year. The median household income in the U.S. is around $80,000. That gap, $31,000, is the wall. And it doesn't matter how disciplined you are if the math doesn't clear. 82% of Gen Z adults say they can't afford to buy a home this year. Not won't, can't. Problem 2. The down payment trap. People will tell you, just save 20% down. On a $485,000 house, which is actually the median home price in many major metros, that's $97,000. If Jake saves $1,000 a month, it takes him 8 years just to reach that number. And that's assuming home prices stand still, which they historically don't. Problem 3. Student debt. Gen Z carries more student debt on average than any generation before them. The average Gen Z graduate has somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 in student loans before they ever look at a mortgage application. That debt doesn't just cost money. It ruins your debt-to-income ratio, which is the number banks use to decide whether you even qualify for a loan. Problem 4. The boomer lock-in. This one is sneaky, and nobody talks about it enough. Baby boomers make up 42% of all home buyers right now, and 55% of all home sellers. They dominate both sides of the market. Many of them bought their homes in the 80s and 90s, watched the value triple or quadruple, and now they show up to the same house Jake wants to buy, with decades of equity in their pocket. No mortgage needed, paying full cash. First-time buyers now make up just 21% of the housing market, the lowest ever recorded, compared to the historical norm of 40%. So when people say the housing market is competitive, what they mean is a generation of cash buyers who already own homes are competing against a generation of first-timers who are still saving for their down payment. That's not a level playing field. That's not even the same sport. Okay, here's where I'm going to say something that will probably get me some angry comments. The problem is real. The system is genuinely harder for Gen Z than it was for their parents. That is true, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But here's what nobody is talking about. The people who are still winning in this market, the young ones, are doing something specific. And it's not magic. It's not a trust fund. It's a strategy shift that most people haven't made yet. Let me show you what I mean. Gen Z homeownership is highest in cities like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Detroit, and smaller metros in the South and Midwest. In those markets, you can still find starter homes under $165,000, the down payment on $165,000. House at 10% down is $6,500. Jake can save that in under 2 years. The Gen Zers who own homes are not smarter than Jake. They just played the geographic arbitrage game. But wait, I know what you're thinking. Psycho, I can't just move to Cleveland. My job is in Austin. My life is here. Fair. So let's talk about the second strategy, FHA loans. This is a government-backed mortgage that requires as little as 3.5% down instead of 20%. On that same $485,000 Austin house, that drops your down payment from $97,000 to about $17,000. That's still not nothing. But it's a completely different savings timeline, closer to 18 months than 8 years for Jake. More than a third of Gen Z homebuyers are already using FHA loans. The ones who aren't just don't know they exist. Third, down payment assistance programs. These are state and local grants, actual free money, that exist specifically for first-time buyers. Most people have never heard of them. The average grant is around $10,000 to $15,000, depending on your state. Some go higher. You apply through your lender when you're getting pre-approved. And most people who qualify never apply because nobody told them it was there. And fourth, and this is the one I see Gen Z actually pioneering right now, co-buying. 70% of Gen Zers say they'd be willing to buy a home with a friend. And some of them are actually doing it. 2 incomes, shared down payment, shared equity. It's how a lot of people bought homes in the 1970s before it became culturally weird. It's coming back. Now, I want to address something, because I know some of you are sitting there thinking, okay, but should I even bother? Is buying actually better than renting? And the honest answer is, it depends. And anyone who gives you a blanket yes or no is selling you something. Let me run the real numbers for Jake. Jake is 24. He's renting a 1-bedroom in Austin for white $600 a month. If he keeps renting for the next 16 years, until the median first-time buyer age of 40, he will have paid his landlord roughly $307,000 in rent. Not equity, not investment. Just gone. Now say Jake buys that $485,000 house instead. He uses an FHA loan, puts 3.5% down, gets a 6.5% mortgage rate. His monthly payment is about $2,900, about your $300 more than rent. That extra $300 a month feels brutal. But here's what's happening on the other side of the ledger. Every month, a portion of that mortgage payment is building equity, his ownership stake. And over 16 years, assuming even modest 3% annual appreciation, that $485,000 house is worth about $760,000. His remaining mortgage balance is around $370,000, which means his equity, the wealth he built just by making housing payments, is roughly $390,000. The renter's equity after 16 years of payments, zero. Now, and this is critical, that doesn't mean buying is always better. If Jake has to move in 3 years, buying could actually cost him money after transaction fees. Buying in a declining market is dangerous, and that $1,300 monthly difference could be invested in index funds instead, which changes the math again. The point isn't always buy. The point is, the decision is way more complicated than you can't afford it. And most people are making it based on the scary number on the Zillow listing instead of running the actual math. Let's come back to Jake on the floor. He does 3 things. Step 1. He goes to his state's housing finance agency website. Every state has one, and looks up first-time buyer programs. He finds a down payment assistance grant worth $12,500. He had no idea this existed. He's been paying rent for 2 years, assuming he was just locked out. Step 2. He opens a high-yield savings account, currently paying around 4.5%, and sets up an automatic transfer of $600 a month labeled House Fund. Not a car fund, not a vacation fund, a house fund, with a specific target, $20,000 in 27 months, which combined with the grant gets him to the $32,500 he needs for a down payment, closing costs and a small buffer. Step 3. He starts tracking his credit score like it's a part-time job, because the difference between a 680 and a 740 credit score on a $485,000 mortgage is about $80,000 in interest over the life of the loan. That's not a typo. One number can cost you $80,000 or save you $80,000, and most people treat it like an afterthought. He's not buying in 3 months. He's not even buying next year, but in 27 months, Jake has a real plan that ends with him owning equity instead of paying his landlord's mortgage. That is the difference between staring at Zillow in the dark and actually getting there. Look, I'm not going to pretend this is easy. The housing market is genuinely harder for Gen Z than it was for boomers at the same age. Home prices are historically stretched. Mortgage rates are still elevated. And the system was not designed with a 24-year-old renting in Austin in mind. But here's what I want you to take away. 2% of Gen Z says they can't afford to buy a home. And a lot of them are right now, in their current market, with their current plan. But the ones who do own homes? They didn't get lucky. They changed the plan. Different market, different loan type, different saving strategy, different credit score. The number on the Zillow listing isn't the answer. The number in your savings account and the number on your credit report, those are the answers. And those are numbers you can actually move. If this video helped you see the problem differently, hit subscribe and check out the one I did on building your credit from scratch, because that's where most of this starts. I'll see you in the next one.